Welcome, everyone. My name is Frederick Winsness, and I am with NetHope and the NetHope Solutions Center. I want to welcome everyone to yet another NLG, No Lost Generation Tech Task Force webinar. Today, we are very pleased to be with Southern New Hampshire University and Authess to talk about bringing university degrees and employment pathways to refugees online. But before we get underway, I want to go over a little bit of housekeeping. We do want to make this as interactive as possible, so please open the chat window in your WebEx console. You can do that by clicking the little conversation bubble, the icon number 3 from the right on the bottom of your screen. And we encourage you to put your questions in the chat window, and we will do a facilitated Q&A session towards the end of the hour. We are recording this session today, and both the recording as well as the collateral will be posted to the NetHope Solutions Center, and we will have a follow-up email that will point you to that. We'll encourage everybody to share that with colleagues that might be interested in the topic at hand. We also will provide you with an online survey at the end of the session today. You'll see that popping up in your browser, and we certainly would encourage you to spend a minute or two to answer those questions to help us improve this webinar series over time. So with that, I want to introduce Leila Toplik. She is with our No Lost Generation Tech Task Force group here at NetHope, and I'll turn it over to you, Leila.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So for those of you who are new to the No Lost Generation Tech Task Force and our monthly webinars, welcome. Frederick, if you could switch to my slides, that would be great. Excellent. So just briefly, for those of you who are new, this task force was set up by NetHope and No Lost Generation Initiative with the support from Microsoft and TripAdvisor, specifically to facilitate collaboration within the humanitarian sector and also between the humanitarian sector and the private sector and academic institutions, with specific focus on tech-enabled programs for conflict-affected children and youth, and specifically meeting the needs like education, which is what we're going to be talking about today, as well as employment, also participation and protection. And while we tend to focus on the needs of millions of children and youth affected by the Syria and Iraqi crisis, all resources and all projects are available globally. And the task force is open to all global and local NGOs, private sector companies, academic institutions, entrepreneurs, and host governments. You're seeing some of the examples of the organizations that have been actively participating in our work. We have over 70 that have joined since the launch in 2017, and Frederick will be sharing the link for how to join the task force, how to sign up and actually get invited to the future webinars. There are some great resources and contacts available to all of you. Some excellent information on program design, technology tools, educational content, and more. You're seeing on the first block a summary of some of the webinars or virtual convenings we've had to date. We're also doing a number of cross-sector collaborations, and we'll be talking a little about that at the NetHope Global Summit in Dublin this November. In terms of upcoming webinars, we actually have one more planned for the month of October. That will be with World Reader and their partner iLearn, and that webinar is scheduled for next Thursday. So register today if you haven't done that yet. Now, it's really my pleasure to share with you this feature presentation. It is a program that is focusing on one of the top priorities for the No Lost Generation Initiative, and that is education. Education is pillar 1. From the recent statistics, we know how difficult it is for refugees to access higher education, and especially education that connect with dignified livelihoods. And this specific partnership is focusing exactly on higher education and career pathways for refugees in Africa, but also the Middle East. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Rachel Sears from Southern New Hampshire University and Paul Crockett from Authess. Over to you, Rachel.
Hi, thank you so much. I am super excited to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present to this group. I'm really excited to just be a small part and work with you in this amazing work that you're doing. And I'm also happy to talk to you about Southern New Hampshire University's Global Education Movement, or GEM. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of the GEM program, our locations, and our students. I'll tell you a little bit about our learning outcomes, a bit about an exciting new project that we are working on with Authess, introduce you to Authess, and our tech partner, Authess, will tell you a little bit about the project that we're working on. And then I will wrap things up by sharing some information about internship and employment and some programs that we are running for students. And if you have any questions, like Leila mentioned, just pop them into the chat box and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. Most of you are already aware of this statistic. There are currently 68.5 million people who are displaced worldwide. And the sad reality is that less than 1% of displaced people have access to higher education. The average duration of protracted displacement is now at 26 years. So the lack of access to higher education is a huge, huge problem. Southern New Hampshire University's GEM provides associate's and bachelor's degrees that are U.S. accredited. Our current degree offerings are in operations, healthcare management, business management. We're also in the process of creating an IT degree that has 2 different pathways, and we're really excited about that. So we're looking at that for around January. And we are looking to take SNHU's mission to transform student lives and make pathways that meet every student's unique needs where they are. And our students happen to be located in Africa and the Middle East, and they are refugees and their surrounding communities. So let me see. Our current locations are in Rwanda, Kenya, Malawi, South Africa, and Lebanon. Here are some pictures of our amazing students. These are pictures of them either doing schoolwork at school or doing some employer events or internship events. We work with on-the-ground partners. So in Rwanda, our on-the-ground partner is Kepler University. In Kenya and Malawi, our on-the-ground partner is JWL. South Africa, our on-the-ground partner is Scalabrini. And in Lebanon, our on-the-ground partner is MAPS and American University of Beirut. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our Middle East expansion in a minute. Here are our stats for our current student enrollment. Apologies on the first bullet point. Actually, it should read Kigali and Kiziba Refugee Camp, not Kakuma Refugee Camp. We are in Kakuma Refugee Camp, obviously in Kenya. Our oldest program is in Rwanda that started in 2013. All of our newer programs are within the last year. Our Lebanon site in the Bekaa Valley launched. It's small right now. We are adding Beirut and Tripoli sites, and we're actually looking at a new site coming up for Jordan, which is really exciting. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of our learning outcomes, this is from our first cohort, which we started with in 2013. We contracted with ID Insight to do some independent research and to look at the SNHU Rwandan student graduate versus the traditional Rwandan university student graduate, because obviously we wanted to make sure that we were contributing and doing something that was worthwhile. As you can see from this first cohort, the SNHU grads outperformed the traditional Rwandan university grads in many areas. So we're taking this as a really good sign. We're very excited about these results. In addition to our academic initiatives, we work with our partners to provide wraparound services, and our academic and wraparound services are open to all of our students. We are, an AA and BA program, so our students generally start at age 17 and are generally college-age students. However, we do have some students, because we're open to anybody who applies and is accepted. Obviously, they have to have completed their high school degree, etc. I think our oldest student was 60, who is recently enrolled in our program. We also have a big initiative to provide internship and employment opportunities, which I will talk about a little bit later. 50-50 gender equity initiative. I'm really, really excited to say that we have achieved this in both of our Rwanda campuses and in our South Africa campus. Our Kenya and Malawi campuses are still new, and we're still pushing to get there. It might take a little bit, but we expect to be there within the year. It's particularly exciting for us because when we first started in Rwanda, we were told by many of our partners on the ground that it was just an impossibility. And through providing bridge support and also women's services and supports through our on-the-ground partners, we were able to close that gender gap. We also have a refugee advocacy piece where we work with the government and also local NGOs to help push along refugee rights when it comes to academics and work. We also ensure access to students who have disabilities. In the bottom right, you will see a picture of one of our students from Kenya, and he is using his homemade wheelchair to access our building, which is accessible to him, and we also arranged transportation for him within the refugee camp because Kakuma obviously is very large, and he needed to be able to get from where he lived to our facility. The exciting project that we are partnering with Authess on is our new Rwanda Assessment Center, and I will tell you a little bit more about that. We wanted to figure out how to reduce the cost of our degree so that we could serve more students. The biggest cost in our degree program is the assessment cost, so reading the student projects, assessing them, giving them feedback, and it's very important to us, obviously, to maintain or improve the quality and consistency of the assessment across assessors so that all students are receiving the same experience, whether they are located in New Hampshire or Africa or Indiana. The goal of this center is obviously to keep or improve the quality and consistency and serve 50% of all of the GEM Global Education Movement AA students by 2020. We are also adding a very exciting AI layer on 4 projects that our students are completing. This is going to hopefully help us reduce assessment cost by giving our reviewers additional information that they can use and decide where they want to focus their time on. Also, the information that we're going to get from the AI and machine learning hopefully will give us more insight into the student learning process and what their process was so that we can then share that with them and give them an even more robust academic experience. So we're very excited about that. Our goal really is to serve 50,000 refugees by 2022. And we are hoping that we can leverage the cost savings from the assessment center to support the sustainability and scalability of the GEM program. And again, our partner for the AI piece is Authess. I am happy to introduce you now to Paul Crockett, the CEO of Authess, who will tell you more about the company and its work. So Paul, over to you.
Great, thanks, Rachel. Hi everyone. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Paul Crockett. I'm the CEO of a company called Authess, and Rachel referred to the program that, just one moment here. Frederick, I am actually not seeing the navigation controls for next slide. Okay, maybe I'll just ask to move to the next slide because I'm unfortunately not seeing. Oh, there they come. Now they're there. So great. So Rachel had talked about how assessments and managing assessments is one of their most significant costs. And it's critical for them to lower their costs so that they can support the business model that they're driving to offer these degrees at no cost to refugees. And so this is where Authess comes in. We're a software platform that puts people into authentic, real-world case studies and scenarios, and then we use AI and machine learning to observe how they think and behave while solving a problem. So our technology exposes and measures the critical competencies to meet the needs of a rapidly evolving workplace. We sit really at the intersection of higher education and jobs and are very focused on applying our advanced technology to employable skills. So what that means is essentially that when we are able to put people into real-world tasks, scenarios and case studies that look like the types of things that they would actually do on the job, then we can observe their behavior and their performance, moving beyond conventional assessments like multiple choice, which are primarily assessing knowledge. We really want to look at how people apply their knowledge and then quantify that. And so what we're doing is essentially generating a report that can measure skills at scale, these critical competencies, to inform cost-effective pathways for certificates, degrees, and other credentials. And our work with Southern New Hampshire University is a great example of that. So I'm going to move over to a demo and show you very quickly what this looks like. So I just want to confirm that everyone can see my screen. It should say the name of a project, Selling Organs.
Not quite
right?
yet. So we cannot see it, so you should go to the Share menu and Share Desktop.
Now we're there.
The screen. There we go.
Yep. Can you see my assessment library?
We can.
Yes.
Great. So Rachel mentioned that we're working on 4 projects with them with the goal of essentially piloting this, demonstrating that it works and it can achieve the scale and the cost efficiency that they're looking for, and then apply it to more projects. So this is a series of projects that is intended for their business administration program. They are real-world tasks that ask the learner to produce and deliverables that would demonstrate the application of their knowledge. We're going to take a quick look at this Selling Organs, which is an assessment focused on ethics. So what we do is we produce an assessment that and a user experience that puts people, these students, into the scenario of actually having to solve the problem. Here's a page that just describes the task and the assessment, and then they get into actually the performance of the assessment. in the way this particular assessment is designed, they have 3 sections, a series of resources where they can open up documents and do research. Then we move through a few additional sections, but I'm going to pause here just to mention that one of the things that differentiates the Authess platform is that we not only offer the information like in this research section, but we track behavior and performance as someone works through the assessment. So we'll look at which documents they open, how long they look at those documents, and other signals that determine whether or not, or give insight into whether or not the learner knows what they're doing. The organizer is, I've already populated some content here for the sake of the demo, but the learner is being asked to prepare for a podcast that they have to produce. They're given access to an existing podcast that debates the ethical issue of selling organs, and then they have to go through and answer a series of questions to essentially prepare for their own podcast. And so they're asked what ethical issues are being debated, what ethical arguments does the researcher make and versus the interviewer, and so on. So they would fill out a series of information. Now this is a very text-based assessment, but what Authess does is supports a full range of different types of activities, outlining and highlighting and decision trees and experiments. So we're very focused on developing out a suite of what we call item types to elicit evidence of performance. As the learner works through this, eventually they're asked to produce a video, or actually an audio clip, that represents a podcast. So how would they sort of state their own argument in a podcast? So once students have submitted their assessment, they become viewable through our dashboard, and so someone on the Southern New Hampshire side can then go in and view a report of that individual's performance and give a score. So they can actually go through and see exactly what the learner did. Which documents did they open? How long did they look at them? How did they respond to the questions in the organizer or any other tasks that were given to them? And then they can score the assessment based on whether the learner had mastered that competency or not. So as Rachel explained, the program is competency-based. So what the scorers are looking for is evidence that the learner has either mastered or not yet, and has to go back and study and attempt the assessment again. So we facilitate all of this, capturing all of the work that the learner is doing, not just their answers, but the work that they're doing. We're evaluating that, and then giving a recommended score to the scorer in the Rwanda Assessment Center. Thereby, we're actually saving time. So by providing a recommendation based on one of these more open-ended subjective tasks, the scorer in Rwanda can focus more of their attention on providing feedback and providing a quicker score, thereby lowering costs. So just reverting back to the presentation. Here we go. I'm going to stop sharing. I just want to wrap this up by saying that Authess as a company, this is one example of how we're working with one of our clients and one of our most important and excited clients, Southern New Hampshire University. But we support customers across education and the workforce space. So we can support formative assessment and learning, summative assessment, pre-hire screening, structured interviews, and other applications. We tend to work with academic institutions like Southern New Hampshire University and types of companies that support academic institutions like learning technology companies, a company like Pearson as an example, assessment companies, nonprofit organizations, and then of course employers. We have, as an example of one of our other products, we just recently launched an assessment called Skill Metric, which is a reliable and valid measure of critical thinking skills particularly analytic reasoning, problem solving, and written communication. And this is an assessment that is primarily offered to employers as a way to identify high potential talent regardless of their background. Research continuously shows that traditional proxies like alma mater and grade point average and even work experience are not good predictors of future performance. So if we want to identify people with the right skills, we need to open up to a broader and more diverse audience. And finally, I'll just quickly share if there is any opportunity to work together, we would welcome that. My email is paul@authess.com. I'm going to turn it back over to Rachel.
Thanks, Paul. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Terrific. So now that you have heard an overview of the Southern New Hampshire University GEM program, where we are now, where we're headed, and also heard some information about this really exciting pilot that we're doing with Authess at our new assessment center, I wanted to share with you some of the details of our internship and employment program for GEM students and grads. Currently, 99% of our students complete an internship, and 92% of our students are formally employed by the time they graduate. This is an amazing statistic that we are really proud of. It's also a little bit skewed because the majority of the graduates that we have graduated from our longest running program, as I mentioned, which is in Rwanda. And in Rwanda, our graduates who are refugees have the right to work, and they also have the right to move. And in some of the countries where we have recently rolled out programs in the last year, refugees who make up a large number of our students do not have the right to work or the right to move. So we are looking into new opportunities where they can use all of the skills that they've learned and work in remote online environments. Our internship and employment pathways program has 4 components. There's a digital resource center, a jobs portal for students and employees. As I mentioned before, we have a very strong advocacy piece, and we also are collecting data. We are contracted with ID Insight to do research into our outcomes, and we are reporting and sharing that data. Our student internship and employment pathways program provides opportunities and resources for our students, but also for our employer partners. And we are partnering with employers to create on-the-ground internship and employment opportunities like I spoke about, but we are also partnering to create remote opportunities for those students where the right to move and the right to work is not guaranteed. We build on the skills that our graduates have learned. As I mentioned, they are all graduating with US accredited degrees. And we're seeing that the benefits of internships and employments are not only affecting our students, but we're seeing those results translate to their families and their communities. In addition to the academic programs that we offer a really robust workplace skills development program where students learn everything from critical thinking to time management to professional communication. One of the reasons why all of our students are required to complete internships is so that they have an opportunity to put what they've learned in the workplace skills program into practice. Also, because we're a US accredited degree, right now our program is in English, so the students who graduate not only are mostly multilingual in their home language and also the language of the location where they are, several regional dialects, but also they have very advanced English language skills. And because the majority of our academic program is online, the students have advanced computer skills as well. For the internship program, And the students have a lot of benefits, including relationship building, developing their communication skills, making connections so that they can get recommendations when they do have job opportunities. Just someone to be able to say, you know, this was my experience working with this person, they showed up every day, they completed their tasks on time, they did a great job, which, as you know, is really important when people are looking for employment. And they have an opportunity to work in a professional setting, which they may not have had a chance to prior. And most importantly, receiving and integrating feedback from a workplace supervisor. All of our students are coached while they are doing their internship, so they have somebody on the ground working with them to support them and ensure they are successful. We offer a lot of services with our interns and also through our graduates who can become employees. This is just a short list of what some of the options are. From machine learning and AI to data entry and transcription. We've done a number of custom projects for organizations, including things like developing a safe driver platform for a moto company that functions like Uber, which I'll talk more about in a minute, to things like research analysis and reporting on corporate competitors, market trends, grant opportunities, also administrative functions, things like HR, finance and accounting functions, project management, and digital marketing. I wanted to share a great internship success story with you. Siddiqui, who is one of our graduates, graduated in Kigali and was not sure what an internship would look like, was a little bit hesitant, you know, just wasn't sure what his experience would be like. The quote in the top box is from him. The bottom box is a quote from the CEO of Safe Motos, who is the person who hired Siddiqui and was one of our first employer partners on the ground. He took Siddiqui on initially as an intern, and he wasn't sure what it would be like to hire a refugee either. And what we've noticed is with our employer partners who hire either interns or employees, they are really happy with the performance, generally initially surprised at how well things work out, usually want more interns or more employees. Siddiqui was offered a job from his internship at Safe Motos, and he actually ended up turning it down because he went on to pursue a master's degree and is now the first refugee college counselor for the College Board. He has moved on to become a WISE Fellow. He has traveled around the world talking about refugee education and is now back in Kigali working with other students who want to go to college. So that's really, really exciting. This is Eugenie, another internship success story. She did digital marketing for a retailer, learned a lot. Again, the clothing retailer who she worked with was really, really happy and hired on more of our interns. And the reason that I am sharing this information is not only to talk about the success of our program, but to let you know that we are looking for internship and employer partners to work with us and offer opportunities for our students. Our remote internships generally last 3 months. The interns work 5 to 15 hours a week. We've noticed that things generally work better when they are project-based, but the projects can really be anything. And the internships are everywhere from unpaid, where students would earn school credit, to a $70 a month stipend. And if you were interested in having some of our students work as interns, what we would do is work with you to identify areas where our students could support, and then you know, go from there. And my contact information is at the bottom. There's my email address and cell phone number. And I want to advance to employment a little bit as well. I know we're running out of time, so I want to be conscious of that. But I wanted to share that our graduates are beginning to work either on the ground or remotely in all of the countries where we are, because we're starting to have grads everywhere now. And we're looking to employ our grads part-time, full-time, contract, or freelance. And we're able to offer graduates with a lot of good academic experience, but also all of those robust workplace skills that I talked about. And of course, with their US accredited degrees, our graduates have completed internships. And in addition to having opportunities where graduates can work for companies directly, we have center-based working options where if a company were interested in hiring several employees, they could be supervised out of one of our centers and even be supervised and supported by one of our employees. And we can really create customized options and support for anybody who's interested in working with our students as employees. So I'm going to leave the internship slide up and ask anyone who is interested in working with our students or just hearing more about it to contact me using the information at the bottom. And also, I'm happy to talk to anybody about ways to collaborate that we can work together beyond internships and employment. So I see a bunch of questions in the chat box. Do you guys want to read that out?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel and Paul. There are a number of very interesting questions as a follow-up to your presentation. First of all, this is an excellent example of collective impact, and specifically an academic, well-known academic institution working with a technology company, but also with a whole set of other stakeholders like employers to tackle a very difficult challenge, which is higher education. As Rachel mentioned, only 1% of refugees have access to higher education. And what Southern New Hampshire University is doing also is ensuring that those who are actually graduating with degrees have access to employment. So you'll see the questions that we're going to go through are representative of all the topics, from education to AI and machine learning, all the way to employability. So Frederick, why don't you kick us off with the first question?
Absolutely. So in many cases, the places where the refugees are staying is a blended population with the host community and refugees. So is the program accessible to host community youth as well?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We work with refugees and their surrounding communities. So depending on where our sites are located, we have 2 urban sites, one in, now 3 urban sites, one in Kigali, one in Cape Town, and one in the Bekaa Valley, and those are open to refugees and their surrounding communities. The locations that are actually in the refugee camps, Kaziba and Zaleka, they're open, but then people would need to come into the refugee camp to participate.
Thank you, Rachel. So just coming back to this question around the degrees, I'm really interested in hearing more on both what degrees you're currently offering, but also if you're adding new degrees, what input NGOs can have on what degrees potentially are made available to refugees, and including how you are specifically working with your local partners, whether it's in Rwanda or Lebanon, to ensure that you're offering the most relevant degrees for that market. If you can answer that question, and then there's also a language question.
Sure. So currently we offer healthcare management, operations and logistics, business and communication. We are in the process of adding an IT concentration. We work with our partners to determine what the most relevant degrees for the areas are. And we also look at just prevailing information around what's needed in those countries and economies. Initially, we took degrees that were already developed and we're using those. The IT concentration is new for us and very exciting, and we decided on using that because of the feedback that we got from our on-the-ground partners and also because of other research that we have done. As far as ensuring that the activities are culturally relevant, this is a U.S. accredited degree, so we need to make sure that all of the activities are consistent across students, regardless of them being in the U.S. or outside. However, we do work with our on-the-ground partners to look at activities and see how they can contextualize them for students, and also things that they can add. And for the new degree that we are developing, we have subject matter experts that include refugees who've either been relocated to the U.S. from those communities, or refugees who, or their surrounding community members who are currently located in those places. So as we develop new degrees, we're going to continue to ensure that we have those subject matter experts from our local locations.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I heard the languages question.
Yes.
Yes. Currently, all of our degrees are only offered in English, and that is because we are U.S. accredited from NEASC. However, we are proposing to offer degrees in other languages. Obviously, we need to keep our accreditation. That's very important for us. So the process might take a little while, but we are hopeful.
Would you, so just one quick follow-up question on the degrees. Is the channel for accessing those degrees through Southern New Hampshire University? Is there an opportunity for those degrees to be accessed through, for example, existing programs on the ground, whether it's websites that could potentially make refugees aware of this opportunity? What's your kind of preferred way of driving the broader awareness of these degrees?
So for our purposes, to have students enroll in the SNHU degree program, because it is a Southern New Hampshire University degree program, we rely on our on-the-ground partners who are local area experts. A lot of the way that we decide where we're going to go next is based on the quality of partner that we can find. We look for partners who have obviously really solid operations and background, but also are strongly grounded in the communities that we're going into and have a very far reach. And we leave it to them to recruit our students and to run the admissions process for us. Did that answer the question?
It did. So you are not, just to close on this specific question, you are recommending to have an on-the-ground partner versus having, let's say, just a link to the courses available through an online experience or a website that refugees access directly without having an NGO partner on the ground.
So we do have partners on the ground. Going back to the beginning, and I can even hold on. Let me go up a few slides. We have in Rwanda, our on-the-ground partner is Kepler. In Malawi, it is JWL. It's also JWL in Kenya. And South Africa, it's Scalabrini. Lebanon is MAPS and American University of Beirut. And they are the ones who provide all of the wraparound services, the bridge programs if we need it, the academic coaching and support. So also the physical location where the technology is housed, because this is online, so the students either have laptops or desktops. And so they are providing, we're supporting their coaches and their technology and all of those things, but there is a physical location in each of our, we have a campus in each of our locations.
Excellent, thank you. Frederick, what would be the next question you want to tackle?
Yeah, there was a question that came in ask you to talk a little bit more about the IT curriculum and if you're working with tech sector corporations on that content.
So we have just started developing this. We are working with the SNHU group to put this together who have worked with tech sector corporations. If anybody is interested in talking to us about it, I would be happy to field those initial inquiries and then answer any questions, and then of course refer people along if potentially they could be more involved in the degree creation.
Great. The next question is regarding the technology solution. So as you both pointed out, one of the barriers to scale is doing actually assessment consistently and at scale. So just one clarification needed in terms of what role AI or machine learning plays in this specific instance. If you can confirm that this is about really providing AI solution, providing a recommendation to a human who, let's say in Rwanda, who ultimately is making the decision on the assessment. Is that accurate, Paul?
Yeah, that's critical, actually. We take a hybrid approach. So the reason this works particularly well is Authess can take a first pass by running a submission through our system. We have very high precision and reliability. As an example, one of our assessments is at around 98% with human scorers. And but to the point of the question, we don't end there. What we do is pass on our recommendation to the human scorer in the Rwanda Assessment Center, and they make the final judgment call. But the way Rachel and I feel about it is that we can take an average scoring session from, say, 30 minutes down to 15 minutes, and that's where the efficiency and the cost savings comes in.
Thank you for that. And that, I think you were also answering the question around accuracy of the algorithm.
Yeah, that's something that we spend a lot of time training data and tuning our algorithms to make sure that they are accurate and that there's a high level of confidence. But again, I think the way Southern New Hampshire University is handling this is exemplary because they take they take the results of the assessment, the accuracy of the scoring very seriously. So the hybrid approach is really a great model here.
Do you anticipate moving from away once you've trained your model, moving away from the hybrid approach to machine-based approach?
So that's a really good question. We have no plans to eliminate our human assessors. It's a big part of our degree, the back and forth with the students. Oftentimes when a student submits a project, it's not a one-time, one and done. Oftentimes there's a back and forth. So it's really an opportunity for the student to develop their skills in real time and learn from the reviewer. And we choose reviewers with a lot of experience, with really high quality academic knowledge and experience, and also workplace experience. So it's important that they have that interaction.
Thank you. Frederick, over to you for the next question.
Yeah, there was a question that just came in about how to potentially partner with you. How might an NGO get engaged? Do you require that local partner have currently extensive education programs?
Not necessarily. We would definitely be happy to talk to any NGOs who are interested in partnering with us. We are looking for partners who are really grounded and have deep knowledge in local communities. So that's really important to us. And I would be happy to talk to anyone who is interested and answer some preliminary questions, and then, if we moved on to a larger conversation, just involve a different group of people.
Could, Rachel, so there's a related question, if you can just, unpack that notion of a local partner. So there's a local partner that works directly with, let's say, refugee youth. And we had a participant earlier who is working in Iraq, in the refugee camp directly with the youth. There's also potentially what I think I heard you mention, a local partner that is helping you develop some of these real-world tasks that are relevant for the local context. So can you talk about the types of local partnerships that are critical for the kind of overall success?
Sure. Our main local partners would be our on-the-ground partners who work with our students, supporting them, providing the physical location, the technology, the academic coaches, and that's a group that generally that we're supporting on an ongoing basis, and we're partnering together to work with students. The degree is coming from SNHU, but a lot of the academic supports and wraparound services are coming through this local partner. As far as hiring subject matter experts, and I should clarify that the local partner generally is not like one person. It's generally an organization. It's always, to date, has been an organization, again, pretty well grounded with, you know, deep ties to the community, lots of knowledge of the community. Individual people who would potentially be interested in being a subject matter expert for curriculum development is something different, and certainly, you know, someone that we would entertain and be happy to talk to. And as we, you know, start to develop additional curriculum, you know, additional degrees. Again, all of our degrees are going to be offered across our learning programs, so in the U.S. as well as the rest of the world, including for refugees. So, you know, we would be happy to have somebody weigh in, and if somebody wants to be, you know, that subject matter expert, they can certainly contact me.
Rachel, there was one question that I thought was quite interesting that just came in, and if you can discuss how this approach compares or contrasts with these MOOCs, or the massively online courses.
Sure. So I think that there's, you know, a lot of value in MOOCs, and you know, you can definitely, I know that some MOOCs can lead to like building micro degrees and mini degrees. I would say the main difference here is that this is an accredited degree, and it's a U.S. accredited degree. So first of our students get an associate, and then they move on to get a bachelor's. We do have a lot of students who have graduated and have moved on to get a master's degree. So I think the accreditation and the actual degree is important. I think that the wraparound services and the internship to employment piece is very important. The academic support and the on-the-ground support is key, as opposed to a MOOC where you might, you know, take a class that you're interested in, or you know, stack a bunch of different micro-credentials to lead to some type of certificate or credential. But I think that this program differs in a lot of ways.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry, I was just going to add, from the assessment perspective, this sort of touches on our origin. My co-founder, Chris Kaiser, is the former provost of MIT. And as provost, he was the chairman of the board of edX, one of the leading MOOC platforms. And in part why we started Authess was because of some of what Chris learned and observed at edX. Part of edX's mission is to help people prepare for careers. And they do that because they have this great opportunity to democratize and distribute really great courses. But because they're doing it at such scale, they really have to rely heavily on conventional multiple choice types of assessments, because it's very difficult to measure more authentic tasks and skills at scale. And that's really why we actually started Authess. And so we're trying to help with that problem where education is being distributed at scale. But again, it sort of underscores the effectiveness of the hybrid approach that Rachel is deploying here.
Yeah, it seems like the MOOCs are a way of massively scaling content. What you're trying to do here is also scale the accreditation process, and that's super important. So appreciate that discussion. Thank you very much. Leila, back to you.
Yeah, and the comment on this, I think it is just an important highlight for those who are listening, who have joined us today, and those who will be listening to the recording. The two kind of points made through this discussion. One is ensuring that through the hybrid approach, refugees can both access this opportunity, but also feel supported throughout the process, which is something that Rachel has highlighted by talking about the importance of local partnerships and even just having basic infrastructure like a classroom and access to a computer. And then the second thing, and from my experience in ed space, scaling assessment is what actually prevents a lot of these experiences from being available more broadly, and doing that in a consistent, high-quality way that Authess and Southern New Hampshire University are working on. And related question to that, and this will be our final question, is actually for Paul, is just really understanding what would it take to get started with Authess platform. Is this something that's off the shelf, or does it require high-touch engagement with you and your team, Paul?
Sure. Yeah, there's really three ways that we work with folks. The skill metric assessment that I mentioned in my presentation is off the shelf. That's something that can be deployed very quickly because it's been pre-developed and standardized. The way we work with Southern New Hampshire University is they have a library of projects that were already built and tested. And so what we're doing with them is essentially taking existing content and deploying it on the Authess platform so you can capture the work that users are doing, learners are doing to complete the task and also score it. And then the last scenario is that we sometimes will work with clients who are looking to do more authentic real-world assessment, but don't have a starting point. So in those cases, we'll typically work with their subject matter expert or someone that we bring onto the project, and that's a bit more of a process, and we lay out a schedule for that and sit side by side as we build the assessment.
That's super helpful. So there's a self-serve model, but there's also a high-touch model that you're working on with the Southern New Hampshire University.
That's right.
We're at the top of the hour. Clearly, a lot of excellent questions and great engagement on this webinar, mainly because the topic is really fascinating, and the program that you have developed is a really interesting model for addressing a big challenge for those who have been displaced, which is over 68 million today. I'd like to thank Rachel and Paul for joining us today and sharing their work. For those of you who are interested in continuing the conversation, we will be sharing both the webinar recording and their contact information, and we do hope that new collaborations will come out of this discussion. Thank you again. Over to you, Fred. Fred, but you're on mute.
I was giving a well thought out speech, and I will catch up right now. So thank you very much, Leila, for producing this series of No Lost Generation Task Force webinar series. We will be back with more content in the future, and it just remains to thank Rachel, Paul, and you, Leila, for an excellent session. Please take a minute to answer the short webinar satisfaction poll, and we wish you an excellent rest of your day wherever you might be. Take care, everyone. We'll be back in touch soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.